Hi, my name is Dr. John Repole, and I want to talk to you today about the confusion in the terminology between food allergies, food sensitivities, and food intolerances. So before we do that, let's take a quick look at the immune system. So there's two major branches to the immune system. There's what we call the T cells and then the B cells. You can think of the T cells as the seek and destroy. They have poor facial recognition. They go out and they go and seek virus or bacteria, protozoa, etc. And then we have the other part of the immune system, which is what we call the B cells, and these guys are more specific. They have memory, and so something enters into the body, and then they imprint a memory through a chemical called an antibody. And so the next time that an invader comes in, they can mount an immune response that's more specific and more organized. So with that said, now let's look at the three components here. So we have food allergies, we have food sensitivities, and we have food intolerances. Well, the first two are differentiated from the third because the first two are immune responses. So let's take food allergy as an example. This is the one that we all know about. This is that anaphylactic type of reaction. You eat a food like a peanut and you get some sort of response, whether it be shortness of breath, a swelling of the conjunctiva, constriction of the airways, skin changes, hives, and things like that. And so they're pretty obvious to see. These tests are usually run by your conventional allergist, and that's usually all that they run. They're really looking and categorizing, quote unquote, a true food allergy. And these food allergies are designated by what's called an immunoglobulin E, which means an immediate set type of allergy. The immunoglobulin refers, of course, to the fact that it is an antibody. So now we look at food sensitivities. And food sensitivities are sometimes referred to as delayed onset type of food allergies. And they have a designation of immunoglobulin G or IgG type of reactions. Totally different type of testing that needs to be done, and it's not usually done in your conventional setting. So you eat a food, as an example, and that food triggers an immune response. However, it's not recognized by the body immediately. It can manifest over 12 hours, 24 hours, 1, 2, 3 days, and sometimes in the cases of gluten, it can be much, much more than that. The interesting thing about this particular category that sets it apart from all other categories is that it's not necessarily contained signs and symptom-wise to the gastrointestinal tract. It's actually extra gastrointestinal. It can manifest as fatigue. It can manifest as depression. In the case of gluten, it can manifest as schizophrenia, etc. So there's many, many different manifestations, and that's why it's so hard sometimes to correlate the exact food allergy with the actual symptom or the quote-unquote disease state that you've been diagnosed with. Now, food intolerance is not an immune response. This is simply a lack of an enzyme, as an example in the case of a lactose intolerant. So the person is missing an enzyme called lactase that is needed to break down the sugar which is found in milk, which is called lactose. So those are the three broad categories of quote-unquote food allergies. We got allergies, true food allergy, we got food sensitivities, and then we got your food intolerances. So we add one more piece to this puzzle. A lot of times what we like to do in our office, and we test for all of them, but what we like to do to start with is actually to test for the integrity of the gastrointestinal tract. And this is the permeability factor of the gastrointestinal tract. And sometimes people refer to this as leaky gut syndrome. But if you have holes, quote unquote, in the gastrointestinal tract, it's going to make, quote unquote, a lot of more foods or food particles enter into the bloodstream undigested. And so the first thing that we always want to test for whenever somebody is complaining of a food quote-unquote allergy that they think is correlated with their disease, the first thing that we do here in our office is to rule out gut permeability issues. And so we run some testing that is done, and these are tests that can easily be done through saliva or fecal or blood to figure out whether or not the person has, quote unquote, this leaky gut type of syndrome, because it can sometimes make the other testing for the food allergies invalid. So we do here at our office, we do IgE testing, we do IgG testing, we test for leaky gut or intestinal permeability, and we also do the mediator response testing, which is a more advanced test that looks at, and there's more complications here, but when you eat a food, sometimes you can get lots of different types of immunoglobulins that are released, or different types of chemical compounds that are produced by the immune system called cytokines. There's other immunoglobulins called IgM. So what some of these more advanced tests do is, if you think of the immune cell as a balloon, full of water, what they're actually testing is the response of a particular food and what actually leaks out of that water balloon. And so they're looking at all the different components and not just making it towards one type of immunoglobulin, which a lot of companies do. So the bottom line is, with the food allergy testing, really there needs to be a dialogue, consultation, and exam to figure out what would be the most appropriate test for you to do. So we can do testing through saliva and blood, and there's testing that can be done for 50 foods, 100 foods, 150, 200 foods. There's panels that can be run specifically for vegetarians, and so there's a lot of different choices that can be done than simply just running a quote-unquote food allergy test. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope we can help you in some way to relieve you of some of the symptoms that might be associated with your particular food allergy.